creator Mike Flanagan burst onto the horror television scene with his limited series adaptation of The Haunting of Hill House. With its detailed characters, thoughtful lore, genuine scares, and unexpected divergence from its source material, Hill House left an impression on critics and horror fans alike. The show's scariest and, notably, most original element, the bent-neck lady, was especially memorable. The Haunting of Hill House deserves its status as one of Netflix's best, but it's far from Mike Flanagan's only quality installment. His completely original limited series, Midnight Mass, was widely praised, while The Fall of the House of Usher, an ambitious series inspired by a significant amount of Edgar Allan Poe's body of work, was largely well received. Even The Midnight Club, arguably the weakest link in Flanagan's own body of work, left some viewers disappointed by its Netflix cancellation. Now, Flanagan television adaptation of Stephen King's Carrie is awaiting its highly anticipated arrival on Prime Video. All told, the buzz around Mike Flanagan's other series outweighed the attention garnered by The Haunting of Bly Manor, despite the show being one of his very best. As his second television series, Bly Manor proved that Flanagan wasn't a one-trick pony with his work on The Haunting of Hill House. Through shared theme music and a shared tagline, "You're Expected," Bly Manor was posited as somehow connected to Hill House. However, the series stood tall on its own with a contained story that was beautiful as it was scary. The Haunting of Bly Manor made Henry James' The Turn of the Screw even better. The Turn of the Screw is a classic piece of Gothic literature, a genre of writing that has proven to be a goldmine for Flanagan. However, The Haunting of Bly Manor stood out for the many ways it diverged from its source material. Through the increasing ambiguity of its central character, Henry James' eerie tale blurred the lines between a ghost story and a display of a woman's psychological breakdown. The Turn of the Screw was emblematic of the horror of its time, bearing a notable resemblance to other famous pieces like The Yellow Wallpaper and, notably, Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. Where The Turn of the Screw was deliberately evasive in ascribing the story's oddities to Bly Manor itself or its governess, The Haunting of Bly Manor was decisive. The series' clear-cut lore allowed it to deliver a satisfying conclusion and develop characters of more depth and emotional intrigue than James had ever given them. Interestingly, every episode title of The Haunting of Bly Manor referenced a different short story by Henry James. This creative combination of allusions allowed the show to honor James' body of work holistically, while still creating something that felt completely fresh and original. The Haunting of Bly Manor was an unexpected love story. Perhaps the most notable difference between Flanagan limited series and James' famous literature was the prominence of queer characters and storylines in The Haunting of Bly Manor. There was no indication in James' work that the governess, or anyone, may be queer, yet the emotional anchor of The Haunting of Bly Manor was Danny's romance with the manor's gardener. The gardener, Jamie, was a completely new addition to the story, and one that made it all the more tragic. Danny was put in more and more danger as she learned the details of the very real paranormal happenings in the manor, and these stakes were felt alongside the story's simultaneous cathartic love story. Bly Manor's Danny was at first damaged and meek after the death of her fiancé. In flashbacks, we learned that her guilt was not only related to his death, but to her inability to go through with their marriage even in life. Her subsequent relationship with Jamie wasn't an afterthought or an added bonus, but a necessary point of growth for this version of Bly Manor's governess. This love story tied back into the show's main ghost story, depicting the women as perceptive, competent, and selfless. This is a refreshing change from The Turn of the Screw, which pointedly allowed for the interpretation that the governess was simply hysterical. Ultimately, The Haunting of Bly Manor was a feat whose conclusion was truly haunting in both the emotional and literal sense.